I'm going to be very direct with you. Everyone says they want results, they want the win, the breakthrough, the moment where everything finally works, but almost nobody wants the part that actually creates those results. And that disconnect is where most people quietly quit. Let me ask you something before we go any further. Be honest with yourself, and if it hits, put it in the comments so others can see they're not alone. Do you want the outcome, or do you want the process that makes the outcome unavoidable? Here's the uncomfortable truth I've learned over and over again. Results don't come from inspiration. They come from endurance, from doing the same hard, boring, mentally exhausting thing long after the excitement disappears. When I started building companies, there was no applause. There were no viral clips. There were just problems stacked on top of problems, and days that felt like they were actively trying to break me. People love to talk about innovation, disruption, changing the world. What they don't talk about is sleeping on factory floors, missing birthdays, questioning your own judgment at 3 in the morning, and still getting up to push forward when the numbers look terrible. And that's the part nobody puts on a poster. That's the part everyone wants to skip. If you want real results, you have to accept something most people reject. Progress feels slow while you're inside it. When you're doing the work that matters, it often feels like nothing is happening. And that's dangerous because the human brain is wired to chase quick feedback, likes, praise, instant improvement. Real work doesn't give you that. I've watched incredibly talented people fail, not because they weren't smart enough, but because they couldn't tolerate the delay between effort and reward. They expected effort today to pay off tomorrow. That's not how reality works. Reality compounds quietly and only reveals itself after most people would have already walked away. Here's another thing people don't want to hear. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. If you build your life around feeling motivated, you're building on sand. Discipline is what carries you when motivation disappears. And discipline isn't glamorous. It's repetitive. It's showing up when you're tired, when you're bored, when no one is watching, and when the results are still invisible. There were moments when the probability of success was painfully low. That's not drama, that's math. And yet, quitting wasn't an option because the mission mattered more than comfort. That's the real dividing line. People who get results decide in advance that discomfort is part of the deal. People who don't are still negotiating with reality, hoping it will bend. You don't get extraordinary outcomes by doing what's convenient. You get them by doing what's necessary, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's lonely, even when it makes no sense to the people around you, especially then. Most people say they want to be successful, but what they really want is validation. They want reassurance along the way. They want signs that they're doing it right. The truth is, the most important work you'll ever do will often feel wrong before it feels right. If you need constant confirmation, you'll abandon the path too early. There's a reason breakthroughs look sudden from the outside. What people don't see are the years of invisible effort underneath. The failed versions, the rejected ideas, the nights spent fixing mistakes instead of celebrating wins. Results are not magic, they are accumulation. If you're in the phase where it feels repetitive, frustrating, and slow, that doesn't mean you're failing. It usually means you're exactly where you need to be. This is the part that filters people out. This is the part that decides who stays and who leaves. So if you're still here, still working, still trying, even though it hasn't paid off yet, understand this. You're not behind. You're training the most important skill there is, the ability to keep going without immediate reward. That skill changes everything. Most people won't do this part. That's why the results are rare. And that's also why, if you're willing to embrace this phase instead of running from it, you already have an advantage most people will never develop. Stay with me, because in the next part, I'm going to talk about why this uncomfortable phase is not just unavoidable, but necessary, and how to know if you're actually progressing, even when it feels like nothing is moving. Here's something most people never realize. The discomfort, the grind, the invisible hours, they're not obstacles. They're the actual work. They're the curriculum. And if you try to skip them, you skip the learning itself. That's why results feel elusive for so many. They want the grade without doing the homework. They want the spaceship to launch without building the rocket. Think about it this way. Every challenge, every setback, every mistake is feedback, but you have to interpret it correctly. If something fails and you react with panic or frustration, you're not learning. You're just repeating patterns that reinforce avoidance. But if you treat failure as data, as a signal, as a stepping stone, it becomes a superpower. That's the part most people don't want to do. They fear being wrong, and so they avoid anything that might produce a wrong answer. But every time I've succeeded, it's been because I leaned into being wrong early, often, invisibly. Here's a fact. Innovation doesn't happen when you're comfortable. It happens when you're pushed to your limits, when the problem seems unsolvable, when the odds are stacked against you. If you wait for conditions to be perfect, you'll wait forever. Perfection is an illusion. Execution, iteration, and relentless adjustment. That's what actually delivers results. And that brings me to another point. Patience is counterintuitive. Human nature wants instant gratification. The brain is wired to reward quick wins. But the kind of results I'm talking about, game-changing, world-altering results, they take years of consistent, often invisible effort. And during those years, you'll often feel like you're getting nowhere. That's normal. That's not a sign to quit. It's a sign you're in the right zone. Let's talk about energy, because this is where most people fail without realizing it. Sustained effort requires a specific kind of energy, not just physical stamina, but mental clarity and focus. You can't hack it with shortcuts, caffeine, or hype. You have to manage your attention ruthlessly, protect your hours, choose your problems carefully. Not every task is worth your energy, but the ones that are, commit fully, obsessively. That's the part people hate. It's not glamorous. There's no applause for focus, but it's the engine behind results. Another truth, the world will often misinterpret your efforts. People may call your work pointless, impractical, or even foolish. And here's the key. You cannot let external validation dictate your path. Results come from an internal compass, not external approval. When I was building SpaceX, Tesla, and my other ventures, there were countless voices saying it couldn't be done, that it was impossible, that the risk was too high. Listening to them would have killed everything before it started. Now, here's where it gets really tricky. Most people get the process wrong. They think the grind is linear. Work hard today, get results tomorrow. That's not reality. Results are compounding, often invisible until a critical threshold is crossed. You might put in years and feel like nothing is happening. That's when most quit. But persistence isn't about feeling progress every day. It's about stacking effort in a way that eventually the system you built starts producing results automatically. I want to challenge you here. Ask yourself if you're willing to tolerate long periods of effort with no immediate payoff. Can you tolerate discomfort for months, maybe years, without seeing the reward? Most people can't. And that's why most people don't get the results they claim to want. Here's another reality that hits hard. You will fail. And when you fail, the part that most people avoid is reflection. Instead of analyzing, learning, and iterating, they either repeat the same mistakes or abandon the path entirely. But if you can embrace failure as the teacher, it is. Failure stops being the enemy. It becomes the fastest route to growth. Finally, understand that nobody else will hand you the keys. Nobody is coming to make it easier. And the results you want exist on the other side of the part nobody wants to do. There's no shortcut, no magic pill. If you want extraordinary outcomes, you have to do the extraordinary work. And It's boring, tedious, relentless, and invisible. If you're willing to step into that space, lean into the discomfort, and keep pushing when it feels like nothing is happening, you're already ahead of 90% of people who claim they want results. Comment below if you've ever stayed the course when it felt hopeless. Share your story, because the people who understand the struggle are the ones who truly get results. Now let's get practical, because knowing that hard work is necessary isn't enough. You need a framework, a way to make the invisible visible, to make effort compound to turn relentless action into tangible results. This is the part most people completely overlook, yet it's the difference between perpetual struggle and unstoppable momentum. First, you need a feedback loop. Without feedback, effort is wasted effort. Every time you try something, every experiment, every task, ask yourself, did this move the needle? If yes, keep refining it. If no, adjust immediately. Don't wait for months to see if something works. That's how you catch mistakes early and avoid building bad habits into your routine. The truth is, the faster you iterate, the faster invisible work becomes visible results. Second, embrace micro goals. Big outcomes are intimidating, and that's why people quit before they even start. Break the work into small, measurable steps that you can complete consistently. Every micro goal achieved compounds your confidence and creates a sense of progress, even when the larger result is far off. Micro goals are the secret engine behind long-term breakthroughs. Third, focus on leverage. Time is finite, energy is finite, and attention is finite. Not all work is equal. Identify the 20% of effort that drives 80% of results. That's where your discipline should be applied. Ignore everything else. People get lost in busy work because it feels productive, but it rarely moves the needle. Discipline is saying no to 99 things so you can say yes to the one thing that truly matters. Fourth, be brutally honest with yourself. The part nobody wants is admitting when you're wrong or when a system isn't working. Pride kills progress. Ego kills progress. If a method fails, cut it fast. If a strategy is broken, pivot immediately. And yes, that feels uncomfortable. Yes, it feels like admitting failure, but it's not. It's acceleration. The faster you learn what doesn't work, the faster you find what does. Next, understand that stamina matters more than speed. Many people burn out chasing results because they underestimate how long it will take. You don't need to sprint every day. You need to sustain. Long-term consistency beats short-term brilliance almost every time. If you build a rhythm, a habit of showing up, the invisible work will eventually become visible results. Now, here's a reality check. External validation is optional. The world will rarely cheer while you're doing the hard work. And that's fine. Validation is temporary. Results are permanent. And the moment you stop chasing applause and start chasing the work itself, you unlock freedom. And you stop performing for others and start building for reality. Here's a strategy I've used repeatedly. Stack challenges intentionally. Don't just do the bare minimum. When the work is difficult, when the problem seems unsolvable, when you feel stretched beyond your comfort zone, that's when learning accelerates. Most people avoid this, but the people who embrace it discover that what once felt impossible becomes achievable, and what once took years starts to compress into months. And here's something I want you to internalize. You cannot outsource perseverance. No one else can do the long, boring work for you. You have to own it. You have to commit fully. That ownership is what creates results. You can hire talent, you can buy tools, you can automate processes, but the decision to persist, to grind, to refine, to iterate, that's yours and yours alone. Finally, understand the compounding effect of invisible work. The effort you put in today, even if it feels fruitless, is like planting seeds in a field. You water them daily, you tend the soil, you remove obstacles, and eventually the field flourishes. One day what seemed invisible becomes undeniable. What seemed impossible becomes inevitable. That's the reward for doing the part everyone else skips. So here's my challenge to you. Lean into the invisible work. Embrace the discomfort. Track your progress with brutal honesty. Cut what doesn't work. Amplify what does. Stack challenges. Protect your energy. Stay consistent. And above all, accept that this phase is not optional. It's the crucible in which results are forged. The moment you start doing this consistently, the universe responds. The breakthrough that looks sudden from the outside is really just the natural consequence of relentless, disciplined, invisible work. You'll see results that were impossible yesterday. And when that happens, you'll understand the secret everyone ignores. The part nobody wants is the very part that produces everything you've ever dreamed of. Now ask yourself, are you willing to do the part everyone avoids? Comment below and commit publicly. It's one of the most powerful steps you can take toward results that last. Because the truth is simple. Extraordinary results belong to the people who are willing to endure, persist, and embrace the work nobody else wants. And remember, if you're willing to do that, nothing can stop you.